She put a pot on she hair and gone. Them a the first one out on the dam. Basket on she head, bucket in each hand. Hold up on she frock, I wanna she grandson. To the market, them a go. For the morning, the day is dawning. For cock-a-crow to give the villagers a warning. Rise and shine, the birds them a sing. All animal take turn as them join in the waking. Cock-a-crow, dagabag, donkey, bray, horse, and they even duck-a-quack. Cock-a-crow, dagabag, donkey, bray, horse, and they even duck-a-quack. Come and hear this sweet story that tell the people about life in the country. All day a back down, me now a come home. The naga jackass yard for fetch the load. Cockle shy hand, bag over shoulder, running by his side, a Rexy and Rover. From the farm, them a come. Sun a go down but up the river. Some washing clothes, some folks are bathing at the water. Fisherman, they catch them a bring. From a canoe boat, man, them start offloading. Aymara, Kwakwari, Hail Baka Kuma Kuma, even Lokonani. Aymara, Kwakwari, Hail Baka Kuma Kuma, even Bangameri. Listen to this sweet story that tell the people about life in the country. Them children glad when the weekend come. Out in the yard, them all gather round. So
this is attorney Shellen Washington, owner and founder of the Washington Law Firm, located at 455 Utica Avenue in Brooklyn, New York. We're specialized in medical malpractice, personal injuries, matrimonial law, and landlord and tenant. If you're in need of legal representation, please give us a call today. The number to call is 718-877-3100. Consultation is free at no cost to you. So call us today to see if we can be of any assistance to your legal needs. Again, the phone number to call us is 718-877-3100.
If you are looking to have your statutory declaration, affidavit of income, identity, damage or lost passport, lost license, tenancy agreement, agreement of settlement, power of attorney, last will and testament, and certification of documents, then you need to visit the Alistair Collins firm, located at the Killian Mall, 162 Lamaha Street in Georgetown, between Camp and Waterloo Street. Alistair Collins is a commissioner of oaths and a justice of the peace. Make certain you visit him or call for more information at 649-6410 or 685-6448 or 503-1451. And there's adequate parking available. Go down to the Alistair Collins firm and have all of your legal issues settled and brought to the fore. Alistair Collins firm. Contact them at Alistair Collins firm.
All right. Hey, good evening. My name is Mark Benchop, and welcome to Straight Up on 107.1 FM. Don't forget, on weekends, every Sunday, that is, this newspaper is out, and it's a Village Voice. Go out and pick up a copy, support this newspaper, and they have some good people behind it. Support it. It's just about maybe 75 cents US. You can afford that, right? 75 cents US. Support an entity, support a newspaper that will write for you. All right. I believe there's an op-ed today by my guest, Dr. Vincent Adams, not Vincent Alexander. So somebody can call Barra Jagdeo and tell him that this guy's name is Vincent Adams. He is he is an authentic doctor. He went to real universities. He got real degrees and proper and respectable qualifications. My name is Mark Benchap. All right. Enough of that for now. Let's get ready to rock and roll. All right, to begin with, Jagdeo had a press conference. Not surprising at all, because, he wants to come out of his hole. He wants to talk. Lots of things. He seems to be jittery these days. And, on the quarantine or in Guyana, maybe in Linden, Dr. Vincent Adams would remember this, his days growing up in Linden. He says somebody is jittery. Somebody is like shaking in their boots. You know what I mean? Shaking in their boots. And Jagdeo is shaking in his boots for obvious reasons. It seems as though the roof is beginning to cave in on this guy. And when a cat is up against a wall and you chase a cat and that cat is up against a wall, that cat does any and everything. It scratches the wall. Meow, meow. That is Jagdeo. You should have been able to watch at his press conference today with a Looney Tune. It reminds me of watching this comical cartoon characters, Tom and Jerry. So I asked myself this particular question. Why should I sit and waste my time to watch Tom and Jerry knowing exactly what the outcome would be? And this is the guy. He lies and he lies and he lies and he lies and he just lies. That is exactly what he does. All right, let me begin before I get to my guest, doctor, right? Again, doctor, a man who has actually earned his degree, his PhD. He's a doctor. Somebody just messaged me to say that, hey, Mark, it appears that I'm blocked from commenting on your program. I wish I can assist. I wouldn't block good people, but the people who jump out of the trenches, they curse and they misbehave. They believe that this is some kind of bacchanal program. They misbehave and all manner of things. They're the ones who get thrown out of here, man. We don't want them. I have no apologies to make. Let them go. They're not going to come here to distract. No, we don't do that. So my good friend who's saying that she has been blocked, I wouldn't block you at all. Now, Michelle Jones is saying, hold on, let me take a look at this word, man. Or maybe I should have my guest, Dr. Vincent Alexander, to pronounce this word. Vincent Adams, sorry, to pronounce this word here for me. It's Pat, or maybe I can call Irfan Ali to pronounce this word. It looks like Pitial. Doctor, what is it? Pronounce that word for me, man. What is it? Or should we call Irfan to pronounce it? Petty. Can you help? Pathological liar. Look, it's a pleasure to see you. I haven't seen you in a while. I've been reading a lot about you. But let me first take this time out to say I appreciate you being on here, even at such a short notice. Good night, Dr. Vincent Adams.
Good night, Mark. It's a pleasure. Coming on your show, that you've arrived. but
Right.
Mark, in all seriousness, I envy you. I envy that you get entertainment that I don't have. You had the pleasure of some entertainment that I'm not privy to. So I envy you in that respect.
Yeah, and thank you so much, Dr. Vincent Adams. I know coming up the State of the Union address by President Biden, a lot of people would want to watch it. So we will spend a solid hour because that comes up a little after 9. So we will do whatever we have to do before we move on. But let me first begin by saying to our viewers, I'll have them listen to just about, and probably this explains why Jagdeo rushed out today to host some sort of press conference, so-called press conference, to divert attention. I had a chat earlier with Mr. Sue, Oh, yeah. I
Ah,
had a chat earlier with Mr. Sue. I'll just play about a minute of that, and then we'll move into tonight's real program with Dr. Vincent Adams responding to Jagdeo actually describing you, Dr. Vincent Adams, as a liar. We'll be right back. This is Mr. Sue, the real Mr. Sue. How long have you been living at Jagdeo's house?
No, the people just I don't know what I'm doing. They do nothing there. You understand?
Yeah. So how long have you been living at Jagdeo's house?
Huh?
How long have you been living at Jagdeo's house?
Hello?
Yeah. How long have you been living at Jagdeo's house?
For 1 year now.
Okay. So how much rent do you pay every month?
Every 1 by 2.
1.2 million Guyana dollars?
Yeah.
Now
Where you from?
when Vice News interview you, did they put you on camera?
No.
Did they record you?
I don't know nothing there.
Okay, so do you
I
know?
don't know what I'm doing.
All right, that's Mr. Sue, the famous Sue, who has been suing a lot of things about Jagdeo. Jagdeo has denied it. Sue is saying that he never said anything. So then who said it? Right? But I have lots of a long conversation there with Mr. Sue, the real Mr. Sue, who said that he pays Jagdeo a monthly rent in Pradoville of $1.2 million. $1.2 million. And look, come on, interesting. Dr. Adams, let's start off first. We'll get a chance to have you take a bite at some of the allegations, mind you, leveled against.
sure.
But before we get into that, this is Vincent Adams, right? He received the Ohio School Boards Association President's Award. This is a man that Jagdeo wants to discredit. This is a man that Jagdeo is saying is not qualified. This is a man that Jagdeo is calling a liar. This is a man that Jagdeo wants to paint as though he is incompetent. He's not qualified to be at the head of EPA and all these manner of things. Oh yeah, Jagdeo of all persons. Now look, check out this guy. This was in the Kaichur News. Before we get to that, let's get back to this. Dr. Vincent Adams, Deputy Manager, EMS, Portsmouth, and all these things, this Paducah Project Office. It was highly rewarding career. Adams, that is Vincent Adams, is saying, I am grateful to the Department of Energy for the opportunity to serve. You have served for over 30 years in the area of energy. Gosh, what was that like, Dr. Vincent Adams?
Well, it was it was a great opportunity. But Mark, I always say that had I not have the grounding of my background in Guyana, there's no way that I could have made it. I grew up in alleys of Christianborg. We say Linden, but the Christianborg folks, we kind of tribal. So I grew up in Christianborg, Linden, and of course I played cricket for Guyana, as a matter of fact, in my teenage days, and then I migrated to the United States after going to the University of Guyana and working for Guyana Water Authority, and then migrating to the United States and went to school, and lo and behold, the rest is history. And I worked for the big oil company, British Petroleum, for over 6 years as a senior petroleum reservoir engineer. Then I went to the Department of Energy for over 30 years, and I was the highest level. I was part of the senior executive service corps of the United States government. And we were the ones who ran the day-to-day operations of the government. So we were the highest ranking civil servants, who were equivalent, by the way, to the generals in the military. I went internationally, and I I operated internationally, representing the United States. So it was a dream. As a matter of fact, I pinch myself sometimes. But again, and that's the reason why I never left Guyana. As you may know, for decades now, I've been going back home to Guyana almost 3-4 times a year because I was head also of the Linden Fund USA. And we would take them medical missions and teachers workshop, give scholarships to students at the University of Guyana. So I always did my charitable work going back home to Guyana, and I intend to do it, except the COVID has kind of held me up here now. But again, it all came from that grounding in Guyana. That's why I'm so passionate to make sure that nobody comes in and take advantage of Guyana. So that there's no way I'm going to go my merry ways and see that happen. And the hurtful part of it is, and frustrating part is, when you see it happening in front of your own eyes and you cannot do anything about it but to speak up, but and do as best you can. So I've been blessed. I've been blessed, Mark, and I got I'm probably one of the few people, regardless of what they might want to paint it. I don't know of anybody else who has academic background and high level experience, and or even the starting level experience in both environmental and petroleum engineering. As a matter of fact, Mark, I'm going to let you into something here. Is it the same Dr. Vice President Jagdeo, who, when I was asked to go and leave, called me the very next morning and said, "Hey, just go on vacation. I want you to go. I want you to come back and run the energy sector for me." Was it the same person? I'm sure there's a record of the phone call when I was in my office. The DP said, "Go. Here's my number." He gave me his personal number and told me to, when I come back, call him. As a matter of fact, when he and Dr. Ali were having press conferences, when the question came up, several times, that's also on tape. When it was asked, well, what's the situation with Dr. Adams while I was in leave? They said, "Oh, we've got a place for him in the oil sector." So is this the same person who is now trying to say that somehow I got the job? As a matter of fact, Mark, and I, to be honest, I had a good relationship with him even when he was in the opposition. We would meet up from time to time, and he would even indicate to me, and he's probably going to say this is not true, well, I don't understand how they could have put you over at EPA. You should have been over at running the and I'm not going to tell you what he called how he described President Granger for doing that, but he would berate the decision to put me at EPA almost every time we reach up, and then of course he himself offered me the position. So I guess all of that is not true. He's probably going to deny that he ever called me. He ever gave me his personal phone number to call him when I return, from vacation, because he wanted me to go to the energy run the energy sector for him.
Wow. We will get into all of that. Jagdeo is obviously intimidated by qualified men, smart men, competent men, and he's just intimidated by that. He wants incompetent people around him for obvious reasons. And now let me ask you this, Dr. Adams. You actually went back. You joined the EPA as its head in 2018.
That is correct.
Not because of any favors.
Nope.
You were overly qualified for that position. It is an area that you have served for over 30 years in. Gosh.
Hey, Mark, as a matter of fact, let me tell you the facts. I really, after I retired, I said I'm going to spend most of my time doing charitable work in Guyana. It so happened that I was in Guyana doing one of those stints, and a friend of mine said, "Vince, this position is advertised. Why don't you apply for it? You've got all the background." I said, "Chief, I wasn't really planning on working after retirement. So he said, no, man, no, we need you. Please apply. So I applied, just casually, never had any real interest in it, And the next thing I know, I was called for an interview. I had an interview. I had a second interview. And then I was offered the position, and I did not, to be honest, the panel itself did not even know that I had anything to do with the AFC, because I was the one who volunteered at the last interview. When I was offered a position, I said, here, I guess, for full disclosure, I'm an executive on the AFC. And they looked at each other, and they were, they said, hey, it doesn't matter, because you're by far, as a matter of fact, the word by far, not even close, you were the highest qualified. So it doesn't matter. As a matter of fact, Mark, when this here is funny, because when when our honorable vice president called me on the day, I think it was a Thursday morning after I received the letter to go and leave, and then he said,
mind you, Dr. Adams, the word honorable, this is the same man who has actually called you a liar today.
Yeah.
But
he called me the next morning, and he said, hey, as a matter of fact, he asked me, said, I want you over there because you, what did it call him again? Reservoir? And just say, yes, it was a reservoir. And I said, Chief. And I told him that. I said, Chief, again, for full disclosure, I'm pretty sure you know that I'm an executive on AFC. He said, man, I know that you're a professional. I don't have to worry about that. And as long as you continue to be a professional, that's all I need. He said, I know, he said, you don't think I forget when I saw you, and I even commented on it, when I saw you sitting there on the platform during the campaign, when the campaign was at Linden. So I am, I mean, it's kind of funny, listening to the vice president saying now that he's completely disowning me and he had nothing to do. And now I got it was a sham process for hiring me. Well, was there anybody else more qualified than I was? And on top of that, Mark, what I did at the EPA, guess who had the EPA before I arrived? Make a guess.
Don't tell me it was Dr. Sharma?
No, it's the same Parshram who is there right now.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, Parshram was the one who signed the first permit that so when he talks about I giving away stuff and Lisa, anybody could go compare Lisa 1 with Lisa 2 and see the improvement with this whole insurance and everything else that we now arguing over. That's Mr. Parshram. And
wait a minute, Doctor. We know that your qualifications, and Dr. Mahendra Sharma heads another agency, right?
No, he was. No, here's what Dr. Sharma was there. And then when he left, Mr. Parshram was acting for, I guess it was like 2 years or something. And
okay, I got you.
Yes, so
let me ask you. I knew that Mahendra Sharma was actually there.
Yes,
let me ask you this.
He was.
Jagdeo is he's discrediting you as any expert. In other words, he's trying to say that you were incompetent. You should never have been placed here as the head of EPA, and you were placed there solely because you were an executive of the AFC. But before we get into that, we know the lies of Jagdeo. We know what he's capable of doing. Somebody earlier said pathological liar, right? And that's the person what they're saying, right? The person who could be onto something. But what's the qualification of or what qualifications this guy Parshram has to head that agency?
I don't want to get into any personal stuff.
No, it's not personal. He heads an agency. He's being paid by taxpayers of the country. We have a right to know what are the qualifications of this.
Well, I would defer the question to him, or let them. I know what mine is, and and mine is
So okay. So are you surprised that he is heading that agency?
Well, I mean, again, I don't want to question the process. He was given the position, and they looked at the candidates who applied, and I don't know who the other candidates who applied. So I guess it's all relative as to who applied, who were in the pool of candidates and the process. But and this whole thing about him not being part of the PPP, again, that's another question.
That's up for question. That's a red flag here. Dr. Vincent Adams, look, let's get straight into this. Here's a man who's describing you as a liar,
Yeah.
untrustworthy individual, politically connected, and all these manner of things. He has ignored the fact that you have received awards. He has ignored the fact that you worked with the Department of Energy in the United States of America for over 30 plus years.
At
right?
the highest level,
At the highest level. And you are overly qualified. This is what this guy, I don't call people like these honorable, but I respect the fact that you take that line. I'm not going to say that you should, but I don't describe things like this honorable, man. Come on. But listen to what he has to say in describing you, Dr. Adams.
Look at the typical thing at the EPA. Now, the guy who heads the EPA, never a member of the PPP, I know the PPP members, he's a professional who practically spent all his life in the EPA. But he is not trusted. Vincent Alexander, who is an executive member of the AFC, went through a sham process and got the job there. He is seen as, we replaced a good man with a party person. It's not true. Is it because he's Indian, he can't be objective, or he has to be PPP? He's not PPP. I see that all the time, and there Vincent Adams lies through his teeth. Like he said, Exxon promised him 2.5 billion. They took him up the mountain and whisper in his ears the 2.5 billion, because if they did that, and I'm glad if he could come up with that they actually did that, because then we can say to them, you have to build on the 2.5 billion. But you must have some documents, and he signed off the LISA 2 permit and didn't put that in. When we sign off on the PIR permit, we added 4 things that he didn't have. We put in a tax, a no flaring policy, and a tax on emissions. Secondly, we got them to commit to a cradle-to-grave management of waste. Thirdly, we improved the standard for spill management. And fourthly, we ensured that water had to be treated, wastewater, to international standard before being discharged. All of those are improvements. He gave away basically the baby and everything else out the window to Exxon with those 2 permits that he approved. Now he says, they promised him. Why did he put it in the environmental permit? We don't have any records of that.
All right, Dr. Vincent Adams, not Alexander. So next time you speak, remind him that you are Dr. Vincent Adams. You got your doctorate, your PhD, not through some honorary doctorate or whatever. Hard work.
Yep.
Respond to this guy, in fact, calling you a liar and all these different things. Respond to him, please.
It's tough keeping up. First of all, this Alexander Adams, and I guess when you can't get your facts straight, you kind of tend to get confused. So let me go on these 4 things. First of all, like I said before, the LISA 1 was signed by the current executive now, the executive that was hired by them. We went in, the LISA 1 had all kinds of flaws. There was no insurance. They said that EPGL has to have, it's a self-insure. I said, absolutely not. They cannot, if you have a spill, EPGL is a newly formed company. They don't have any assets to cover a spill. You've got to go get insurance or something. They went out there, they got insurance. That's a fact. It's a fact. I wish the former country manager, because I know he's a man of integrity, he would not lie. We had several meetings. He brought in the proof of the insurance. I added the numbers. I maybe have missed, when I added that, it come up to about 2.5 billion. So that's a fact. Now here's the other thing, Mark. Because of that, and on top of that, so I said, okay, 2.5 billion cannot do. You've got to go get your parent companies to cover the rest, because the 2.5 was the highest in the market can offer. That's what he told me. He brought the letter to show me the proof, because he had to get proof. So I said, hey, you got to get a parent companies. He said, okay, could you sign off on a permit, which is the LISA 2, and then give us some time so that the three parent companies, ExxonMobil, Hess, and Sunok, they can come up with some way as to how they're going to share, the liability, anything over and above the 2.5 billion. Their lawyers used to be meeting with our lawyer from April of 2019 all the way through when I was about to leave. There were meetings, they were coming over, and they would bring their proposal as to how they're going to cover it. And then my attorney would come and brief me on it after the meeting. So those were happening. On top of that, Mark, the Insurance Association of Guyana, they decided, hey, you know what? That insurance is from out. I think it was a UK company or something. I can't remember that was carrying the insurance. They said, no, the insurance has to come to Guyana. So I said, well, I don't know how to do this. We had a meeting with the governor of the Bank of Guyana in the governor of the Bank of Guyana's office. The EPA, the Department of Energy, the insurance of the Guyana, Insurance Association, and the governor of the Bank of Guyana. So why would we be meeting? So they can also ask those folks at the Guyana Insurance, if they never had this meeting, what's to discuss how they bring that insurance to Guyana. And so I don't know, so this here, I mean, Mark, it's a fact. And here's the other thing, Mark. If you go back, I and the rest of the staff, when this happened around April, when we got Exxon to agree to this, we were all over the newspapers, all over the television. I was there, because it was a big deal. So everybody knew about it. Why? And as a matter of fact, I even said it at least one conference. I said it with even the country manager sitting there, that this is what had happened. This is the progress. So it's been all over the place. There's been the people have even written. There's even articles that were written and say, well, okay, how did the EP able to manage to go outside of the contract because the contract allowed for self-insurance? How were we allowed to go outside of that contract to get this, this insurance? And the government is saying that this contract is sacrosanct. All of those those articles are also in the newspaper. So how come all that the time has passed and then suddenly the vice president is raising it as an issue? What's, like you said, I don't know what's causing this itchiness or whatever. All of those years, it's been out there because it was one of the biggest broadcasting things. As a matter of fact, Mark, other companies, Repsol and CGX, they came in with concern that, well, Exxon is a big company and they're able to, they could afford, to cover anything over and above. Because remember, the Macondo spill, by the way, Mark, was about 70 billion. So they said, our company may only worth 40 billion. So how we, we're not in the same league with Exxon. Is there any adjustment for us? So that was one of the things that I was working on. When we were, just to finish this point, when the lawyers were meeting, coming on to when the Payara permit came up, and when I recognized that they were kind of dragging their feet on coming up with a decision, I made it clear that I will not sign off on the Payara until they come up with this agreement as to how much, how they're going to cover the parent companies are going to cover that assurance, because they weren't they're going to cover that liability coverage over and above the insurance. That
just quickly, Dr. Adams, for some folks who may not understand, what is this all about, the insurance and the 2-point-something billion that...
Well, what it is...
What is it all about? Explain to our people.
Well, you remember, I'm sure everybody remember what happened with British Petroleum in the Gulf. You remember Exxon Valdez. If you get a major spill, you could devastate not only Guyana, fishing, and it's even going to go up the rivers, but you could devastate the entire Caribbean all the way to Jamaica. I mean, those studies were done. So you're looking at a major cost. The Macondo spill with British Petroleum in the Gulf ran, like $70 billion US. So it would devastate the economy. We would go bankrupt, not to mention the lawsuits that would possibly be coming from other countries. So that's the reason now. It's like everything else. The government, you have to go get insurance, or it's either you get insurance or the company covers it. Well, so that's what we started. We said, okay, go get insurance. They went and they got that insurance. And we said, oh, anything over and above that insurance, the parent company has to cover it. So that's what the insurance for is like, when you buy insurance for your house, just in case your house catch on fire, or you buy flood insurance, for damages, it's the same thing. If you have an oil spill and it washes away everything, there are damages that they've got to pay for it. Now, here's another important point. The Lisa 2 it talks about insurance. It says that they have to get insurance. It didn't mention, remember what I said again. It didn't mention a number. But let them go. I guess the vice president needs, I don't know if he's getting bad advice. The vice president needs to go read the Lisa 2 permit. I think it might be section 12 or something. It says you have to get insurance and you have to bring documentation of the insurance. So is he saying that we and everybody else gave them this permit without that documentation? That's why it was delayed. It was delayed until we had that document. It says you have to get insurance. The Lisa 2, by the way, compared to the Lisa 1, is the first permit that enjoined the parent company. That's the first permit that talks about enjoining the parent company in the liability. So here's the other thing. It's kind of funny listening to the vice president. And I've been, hold on, Mark. Let me be sure that I don't run out. Let me hook up here to my. Here's another funny part, Mark. And I guess the vice president catches on to some phrases, and this is not the first time that I've heard it. Cradle to grave. I don't know if he knows what it is, but guess who introduced cradle to grave to Guyana? It's me at EPA. I was the one who requested cradle to grave plan from Exxon for good reasons, meaning they're responsible for the waste from the time they generate it right to final disposal. Because what they were doing was they generate the waste and they hand it over to somebody else and they wash their hands. I said, absolutely not. You will be responsible. So this whole cradle to grave thing, that plan started with me. The letter, as a matter of fact, the letter going to Exxon was signed under me, not now. So he catch on to this term, and it sounds good, so he's using it. I was the one who brought cradle to grave to the EPA and Guyana. Nobody else in the EPA knew anything about cradle to grave. That's a fact. Here's the other thing. He talks about, well, now the water is being treated. Here, when you produce oil with gas, and you produce oil with a lot of toxic water. And as a matter of fact, the water is hot 3 times the temperature in the ocean. It has oil concentration. So you say, well, they're treating the water. Well, it's always been in the permit to treat the water. So this I cannot believe that the vice president is saying this. It is always in the permit. He better not, if I was Exxon, I would have been really mad for him to be suggesting that they never were treating, they never had a plan to treat the water. The water was being treated, and it treats up to a certain level. You're still allowed to have a certain amount of oil, a small quantity of oil. But when you add it up with the billions of barrels of water that's going to be dumped, you got, if you do a calculation over the life, it's hundreds of thousands of barrels of oil that is going to be dumped there. So I cut that out. I said, no, you have to re-inject the water back into the reservoir, like the standard practice. When I worked in the oil field, that's exactly what we did. We injected back into the reservoir. Well, here's another interesting thing, Mark, that the public needs to know. We set up a committee when we were reviewing the PIARA now, under the Department of Energy, the EPA, GGMC, and in the transition, the vice president themselves hired in a Canadian, the lady from Canada, and she brought in our expert. I can't remember the lady, but apparently there was some controversy over him. If you remember, she was an ambassador or something. But anyway, she brought in. So we had a team of us together working the PIARA, and we told Exxon, we came up the plan and it's documented, the drafts. We said no dumping of water, period. You have to re-inject. No flaring, period. You've got to re-inject. So when he comes down and say, well, okay, so what he did. So as soon as I left, and that was what we met with Exxon, as a matter of fact, and told Exxon, no, you've got to get equipment in to re-inject the water, and that's what they were avoiding. They said it's going to cost $300 million. And I asked them, I said, well, are you telling me that you're making tens of billions of dollars and the lives of the people and the health of the people of Ghana doesn't matter? So we met with them after we made the decision. And that lady, the lady from Canada, she was even more dogged than even I was in terms of saying, absolutely, that has to be the case. They've got to re-inject the water. We put it in writing. We met with Exxon and tell them that's what's going to be required. As soon as I left, I left in August, the very next month, Payara got the permit without that condition. So that's the reason why they're dumping water in the ocean. I've said this over and over. So for him to say, well, we're treating water, that's the first thing. That's the first untruth. When he says that now they're treating, because Exxon, if I was Exxon, I would have been mad as hell that he suggested.
Let me stick a pin for one quick second. Jagdeo is calling you a liar as it pertains to the $2.5 billion. He is saying that if that was an agreement, and that is what you're saying, how come it's not in this final document signed by Exxon? Now, I'm seeing somebody, Patricia Botchway, is saying here that no agreement with former EPA administration was made for US $2.5 billion insurance coverage. This according to Rutledge. This is coming from Exxon, and she wants to know, is this true? Somebody appears to be lying bigly.
No, the agreement, here's what happened. We said, I don't want to bore you again going back with the details. We said you have to get coverage, liability coverage, period. Exxon went out, and this is Rod Henson. We refused to sign the permit. As a matter of fact, it really started with one of the yellowtail exploration wells. We said, unless you get the right language in the permit, we're not going to sign that permit. They went out, and so Exxon went out. They found he said the highest amount of insurance in the market was, and he came back with the proof. The numbers doesn't say 2.5. It has some, the numbers were separated out for different things, right? So I added it up, and it came up to approximately 2.5. So it didn't say 2.5 coverage. It's just the addition of the different damages. That's in the files, that the proof from the company. All you have to do is submit the proof. In the permit now, we said that they have to have insurance, which is that. So that was satisfied. But remember now that the Liza 2 was not going to be operational until, now it started 2022. I'm talking here, we're discussing this in 2019. So that was what the discussions were about between the lawyers, because Mr. Henson asked for time for them to figure out how to cover that remaining amount over and above the 2.5 billion or so that, for the parent company, that we said no parent company has to cover it. So he said, well, we need some time for the parent companies to decide how they're going to share this liability. And those were the meetings that were being held between Exxon lawyers and the DOE lawyers. It happened all the time. True, they were showing up. Are they going to? That's what I asked. Are they going to deny those meetings were being held? So that's what it was. What's in the file? First of all, it's in the permit that they have to have insurance. It didn't say the 2.5 billion. It says insurance, because remember, we didn't come up with the final agreement, which is what were being negotiated, but they had agreed in principle. Okay, so they had proof of the insurance part of it, which is the first part. But everything over and above, that's what we were in discussion to come up with that final agreement as to how the parent companies were going to cover that addition. What the permit has, the permit says that they have to have insurance and show proof for it. So that was satisfied. The permit condition was satisfied.
All right, Dr. Vincent Adams, if I were to have put you and Barra Jagdeo on a stage in terms of believing.
Oh, I would love it.
when I say believing in terms of honesty and integrity, I believe most people will go with you. And that's enough said on that. Jagdeo, whenever he talks, I suspect even most of his supporters do not believe.
Here, important point here.
Sure, sir.
And I'm very sensitive to this. And you can tell and that's one of the problems in Guyana. And I talk about it all the time in public. This whole race card. I was shocked that Mr. Jagdeo had to bring up this Indian thing.
Why were you shocked? Why were you shocked?
No, but does Mr. Jagdeo know that my mother is Indian? Look at my hair. Look at my hair, Mark. Does he know my mother is Indian? So when I hear that, it's kind of galling. It's sickening, because it's one thing that anybody who knows me, and I go give speeches all over, in North America and Guyana, and I never give a speech without talking about the racial animus in Guyana. And when we have our leaders, incessantly bringing this up, it's sickening. And I don't care which party he belongs to. You cannot be a leader of Guyana, especially with the racial divisiveness that we have. And for a leader to be bringing this up and somehow saying it's because of race. Well, my mother is Indian. So if he thinks that I've got obviously an Indian side of my family and a black side of my family. I love them the same way. And, it doesn't make any difference to me. So it's really sickening, especially in the context of discussing me.
Dr. Vince Adams, people don't take Jagdeo seriously any longer. Look at his choice in terms of sitting down for a supposedly serious interview. People do not take him seriously at all. And he has a habit of inserting this race card in order to justify some sort of questionable action. He inserted the race card with Mr. Parshram, who now heads the EPA. He inserted the race card with Vishnu Prasad, who now is the chief elections officer at GCOB. He always inserts the race card whenever his back is against the wall. He is dangerous. He's one of the most, or probably the top most dangerous so-called politicians Guyana has ever had over the past 50-something years. Now, Dr. Adams, I'm looking at the time. I know you want to go watch President Biden's State of the Union address.
One thing that he mentioned there too, because sure. Everything he mentioned, the four or so, they're just blatant. He's totally misinformed. So let's give him that. So where he's getting the information from is. The other thing is flaring. And you can go check the records. I stopped Exxon from flaring, and that was the other thing that group that I told you about with EPA, GGMC, the Department of Energy, and the same their own consultants from Canada said absolutely no flaring. As soon as I left, they started flaring over and above what they're supposed to be doing. And when I spoke about it and said it's illegal, as a matter of fact, it's illegal, they said no flaring. You know what the vice president and his government did? They went and changed the permit to allow flaring as long as you can pay for it. They went and changed the permit. So now Exxon is allowed to flare for as much as they want, as long as they can pay that $45 per ton. So let me work out the numbers for you here now, Mark. On a daily basis, because I think the last numbers I saw, they said they were flaring 15 million cubic feet per day. If you do the calculations, 15 million cubic feet, Guyana will collect in terms of this 45. I would, it's a rough estimate. I made some guesses in terms of, assumption. About $50,000 per day. Do you know how much that 15? Because to flare 15 million cubic feet per day, that's equivalent to 15,000 barrels. And also, all you've got to do is cut back on 15,000 barrels per day, and you wouldn't flare. But they don't want to do that. They want to keep the money coming in. Do you know how much, if they cut back, how much they're going to lose? $1.5 million a day. So here's a company is paying probably 1.5, is getting 1.5 million to spend 50,000. what is I mean, that's a no-brainer. And they can continue doing that forever, and it's profitable for them compared to getting the equipment repaired and spending the money. So that's where we are. So I think, Mr. Jagdeo, they're just pirating everything that Exxon is in full control. The other thing is, here's another egregious thing. Do you know Exxon, their justification when they wanted to flare when I was there was that, well, it's okay for us to flare because Guyana is a carbon sink, meaning that we are a pure environment, and so we've got the capacity to absorb pollutants. At the same time, they were committing to the rest of the world to cut back flaring by about 50%. And Mr. Jagdeo and some other members of the government agreed agreed with that. Even some saying, "Well, that's the cost of doing business." I mean, those are quotes. If I'm lying, it's after what
Obviously, you're not, Dr. Vince Adams. You don't have to convince us about your integrity and honesty at all. Jagdeo has a serious problem when it comes to that. Most Guyanese do not believe him at all. But I'm looking at the time, though. I just want to congratulate you on all that you have done for Guyana, and in terms of exposing some of the dangerous things to expect from, this whole oil deal and all these manner of things. Thank you so much for what you do. People believe you more than they believe Jagdeo. Now, take a quick minute in your closing remarks to say anything as it pertains to the oil and ExxonMobil in Guyana.
Well, the first thing we need oil. There's no question. I'm probably one of the biggest advocates for not only producing, but here's where I totally agree with the honorable vice president in terms of producing as fast as possible. I have no problem with that. I think we ought to do it because we've got a small window, and we need. But the question is, how do we spend the money as it comes in? That's the number one question. And the other thing, how do we do it safely and environmentally soundly? If we can answer those questions, and my biggest concern now is that we're not answering. Well, I don't know about the spending yet, because that's left to the guys in Parliament. That the big debate budget. But I am totally dissatisfied with us not doing it the right way in terms of protecting the environment while we produce it. But I totally agree with the vice president that we should not have any limitations on the production capacity we should produce, because we've got a small window. Exxon is only going to be here for maybe 30 years. Exxon and the rest of the folks, we need to take that opportunity to get the money to build, invest in education and agriculture and everything else, so that when oil is gone, we have a sustainable economy. So that's my biggest concern in terms of, and it's just as if we don't care. All Exxon is about, it's the bottom line. That is the way that these managers get their bonuses, their raises, their promotions. I used to manage these companies, Mark, when I was at the highest level of the United States government. I used to manage these folks, so I know exactly, and we used to pay their salaries. So I used to know how they
Of course, the inside out, something Jagdeo doesn't know, but here's a man, Vincent Adams. Dr. Vincent Adams was sent packing after serving a couple of years there as head of the EPA. He was sent packing. Get lost, go. We don't want you. And so he was replaced by a guy named Mr. Parshram. I don't know the qualifications of Mr. Parshram, and I'm not going to take Parshram to task here. But Jagdeo has inserted a race card, just as he oftentimes do. But Dr. Adams, all this headache in politics, all this headache in doing what you believe is the right thing to do. And most Guyanese are on your side. But what if you didn't? Or what if you had continued playing cricket for Guyana? Maybe you would have had all these headaches. Tell us a little bit about your cricket before you go. What position? A bowler,
yeah,
batsman?
Yes, I was a batsman. I'm the only person alive. Now there were two of us who played in the first three youth tournaments for Guyana. Myself and my other friend by the name of Kiteran, who was deceased last year. So I'm now the only person alive that has played in the first three youth tournaments. And then coming out to the youth tournaments, I got into the national team I was an opening batsman, by the way. And then the very first year after I played Shell Shield, at that time it used to be Shell Shield, had 1 year of Shell Shield, and I got into an automobile accident the very next year. And that was how I was, it doesn't get my life was shattered. I went to the University of Guyana. And now, when I look back, I really have not regretted it, because, my people close to me would always tell me, everything happens for a reason. But that's really proof where something happened for a reason, because look, here's this little boy from Christian Borg to rise to the level of international recognition and repute, and did what I did. I've contributed well to science and engineering throughout the world. I led organizations, like the largest environmental professional association of engineers, and it's a big international organization with tens of thousands of members. I was the chairman of the USA chapter. So that was the respect I had. I was chairman of 2 big international science and engineering conferences held in Germany and in Kazakhstan, attended by over 60 countries. So that was the respect, that I had. So when whatever Mr. Jagdeo wants to say doesn't erase anything from what I feel about myself, and I'm going to continue to do the right thing. If Mr. Jagdeo believes that this here is going to intimidate me, well, he really doesn't know me, because I intend to continue to speak the truth. And whenever he says anything that I think is the truth, I'll support him. For example, in his wanting to pump oil as much as possible, I support him with that. So
I'm pretty sure Dr. Vincent Adams, he would enjoy pumping oil. That's where a lot of money and stuff. He gets a lot of money, and he's looking to waste the people's money. Again, I thank you so much. Thank you for playing cricket, and thank you for being from Linden as well.
That's right.
All of us Lindeners. You don't know that I'm an Ali baby too, right? You never knew that.
No, I didn't know. Which Ali were you from?
I think either the second Ali, but I'm a Christian Borg guy, born at
Oh, I didn't know you were here. So, by the way, I understand that our prime minister is from Christian Borg. As a matter of fact, I heard that he grew up, or he or his dad
the
grew up in
United States of America has a prime minister. You're talking about the vice president of the U.S.?
Oh, sorry. The vice president. Yeah, the vice. Yeah. Our prime minister.
Who prime minister?
Guyana.
Guyana has a Oh! I now got you. I'm a little slow on that.
No,
thank you so much.
I heard that I grew up in a place called Poker Street.
Yeah, Poker Street, yeah.
Well, I heard that he or his dad, had some connection to he grew up there or something.
Okay.
So we're all, of course, Aubrey Norton is the same Ali,
We're all the same Ali babies.
Robert Carbon, so we've got a good cadre.
Phillips' family, probably most of them came out from West Coast Burmese, and not from West Coast.
Hey, but I wasn't fortunate enough to go to West Coast Burmese or West Demerara Burmese University, so I had to ship out to the United States.
Thank you so much. Don't be a stranger. Come back here again soon.
Anytime, Mark.
Don't lose any sleep, man. He's calling you a liar is probably an honor. Thank you so much, though, Doc. Appreciate it.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Enjoy the speech.
And yeah, by the way, you could tell Mr. My good friend Mr. Jagdeo, that if he wants a lesson cradle to grave, I can give him some lessons on what it means when he talks about it.
In response to that, you have his number. But
he gave it to me. Here
is what he gave it to Sue too. But that message that you want me to deliver to Jagdeo, this is how I'll end the program. Because that message you want me to deliver to Jagdeo, this is my response.
Pressure boss pipe.
Pressure bus pipe. And pressure is busting Jagdeo's pipe. Oops. Thank you so much, Doc. Appreciate it.
God bless. All right. Take care.
Oops. Pressure bus pipe indeed. Lots of things. I know you guys want to head off to watch that State of the Union address by President. Yes, President, a real president, Joe Biden. But before we go, let me just remind you guys about Sue. Just let's spend another minute together, please. Can we? Here, Sue. How long have you been living at Jagdeo's house?
No, the people just I don't know what I'm doing. They never do nothing there. You understand?
Yeah. So how long have you been living at Jagdeo's house?
Huh?
How long have you been living at Jagdeo's house?
Hello?
Yeah. How long have you been living at Jagdeo's house?
For 1 year now.
Okay. So how much rent do you pay every month?
Every 1 by 2.
1.2 million Guyana dollars?
Yeah.
Now
Very fun.
when Vice News interview you, did they put you on? All right, I'll play that tomorrow night, right here on 107.1 FM. President Joe Biden is about to speak. I'm sure he will pronounce all those words correctly. All right, there'll be no hiccups at all, unlike 19 fraud charges. All right, we've got to go. God bless you all. God bless that beautiful country. And let's pray for peace around the world, even for the people out there in the Ukraine. Let us pray for them, right? And God bless you all. Tomorrow morning, join the mid-morning show with Gabby and DJ Selector Andre. Tomorrow morning, right here on 107.1 FM. God bless you. Until tomorrow, same place, same time. So long.
Hello, this is attorney Shellen Washington, owner and founder of the Washington Law Firm, located at 455 Utica Avenue in Brooklyn, New York. We're specialized in medical malpractice, personal injuries, matrimonial law, and landlord and tenant. If you're in need of legal representation, please give us a call today. The number to call is 718-877-3100. Consultation is free at no cost to you. So call us today to see if we can be of any assistance to your legal needs. Again, the phone number to call us is 718-877-3100.